Welcome to the Engerati studio. We are located at Asian Utility Week in Bangkok, and we have the privilege of talking to Mr. Asawin Rajakrom. He's the Director of Substation Equipment and Underground Cable Installation Division for the Metropolitan Electricity Authority in Thailand. Welcome to our studio.
Thank you very much.
How are you finding the conference? Has it been really beneficial?
Yes, the conference is really interesting. There are many topics that benefit to both myself and my work.
Yeah.
So apart from the discussion which take place in the conference room, also new equipment, new component innovation have been shown in this conference. So I think really useful, really beneficial to the people like me who work for utility company.
Absolutely. Now you've just conducted a presentation on smart grid development in Thailand and the innovation that goes around it and getting the customer on board as well. Do you want to give us an overview of that presentation?
Yes, what I have been talking just a few minutes ago is about how smart grid impacts the asset management. In fact, asset management is what utilities does already, and smart grid is kind of a new ingredient coming into existing power network. What change that have been made to existing network is that smart grid brings the knowledge, brings the information on the equipment, so the engineers, the manager can see what condition the equipment really is at the moment, what is the potential for the failure in a few minutes in the future or tomorrow, for example. So in that sense, smart grid really gives a benefit to the system. But on the other hand, smart grid itself brings in the IT components, which if we compare the service life of this IT component to power component. IT component, it may last the longest one 10 years, but the power component lasts 40, 50 years. How can we manage? How can we manage these two things together? And that is first thing. And the second thing is, you bring in a new technology, you bring in a new knowledge. You must have people, you must have staff that have capability to use it. That is the second thing. Like my company, MEA, we did have the computerized system to control our substation 20 years ago. But the thing is, we have the money, we bought it. But to maintain is another story. That is the second thing. The third is, people talk about smart grid. Talk about installing IT component into the system. It means money. And who pay this money?
The customer?
Yes, at the end is the customer. And do the customers really benefits from this? For example, in Thailand, the utility try to explain that with a smart meter. Customer can learn the consumption real time. They can learn on to date how many units they consume.
Yeah, yeah. It just gives them more control over their consumption at the end of the day, doesn't it? Are those benefits being communicated effectively enough to customers? And if not, how can that be improved on?
No, the thing is, okay, if the price of electricity is a real-time price, meaning it change against the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In that case, of course, customer can benefit from that.
Right.
But in Thailand, the price is the same everywhere, every time.
All right, so that needs to be adjusted for these benefits to be realized. Where does Thailand stand currently with smart grid adoption?
Well, since it is, I would say it is a government policy or the regulatory council policy, so they try to push utility company to implement the smart grid. But the problem is in Thailand, there are three major utilities.
Yeah.
Igat, they generate electricity, they transmit to PA in the province,
Yes.
and MEA, the metropolitan area.
Right.
These three utilities are, of a kind of independent utility.
Yeah, yeah.
They do not belong to each other, so they have their own policy, they have own investment decision.
Yeah, yeah.
But to adopt smart grid, they have to be, one entity.
Yeah, yeah. And do you foresee that happening in the future?
Well, I think if the government can, issue a form of law, for example, to impose utility to focus on the same thing, and
Yes.
to write one
Right.
roadmap,
Right.
and then work together.
Yeah, yeah.
That would be the
To integrate everybody's networks and their plans and make it into almost one entity
yes.
for smart grid to really work. I was speaking to someone yesterday and they were saying that there seems to be a quite a long delay
Yes.
between pilots and actually the adoption
Yes.
of the metering infrastructure. Why is that? Is it because they're trying to find one infrastructure or one platform that works for everybody, or what is actually causing this delay exactly?
Yes, I think that is one of the reasons of the
Yeah.
delay is to find one platform
That is suitable for
suitable
everyone.
for everyone.
Yeah.
Because for the communication network, Thailand also has the regulatory council to
Right.
oversee this.
Right.
And in order to use
Yeah,
the communication
yeah.
network, we have to be permitted from this council. And they ask us as utility to agree
Yeah.
in common what the
Yeah.
communication system that
Yeah.
these three utilities.
Yeah. In order
To-
to move
to-
forward to
Yes,
actually
yes,
get the
yes.
right technology in place.
Yes.
All right. I mean, the opportunities are clearly there, and I think the vendors are here vying for business. As my final question,
Yes.
what would you recommend to vendors coming into this space? What would you recommend to them? What should they be doing?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier, that
Yes.
Thailand you have to have one single direction.
Right.
So have to form a single entity, write a roadmap
Yes.
that can, impose all utility to go to same direction.
Right.
That is one thing. The other thing is we have to qualify the benefit that really, answer to the customer's needs.
Yes. Yes. And really make that understood.
Yeah.
Before the technology or platform is snapped up.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Unfortunately, that is all we have today, all the time that we have today. Thank you so much for joining us. I understand
you're
that
welcome.
we've got an hour or two left of the event, but thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us before it ends.
My pleasure.
Thank you to our viewers for watching the interview. I'm sure you enjoyed it as much as I did. And please feel free to have a look at the other interviews that we conducted with vendors and utilities at the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much.